Chapter number 10, When All Things Work for Good, by Christian D. Larson, and How the Mind Works. In analyzing the workings of the mind, there is no subject of more importance than that of the relation of good and evil. Concerning evil, there are many doctrines, some of which declare that it is a real and permanent power battling in the good, while others declare that it is nothing, or simply the absence of good. Then between these two extremes beliefs, almost any number of other beliefs may be found. To prove that evil is an actual principle, personified in some form, is not only difficult, but also impossible. On the other hand, to prove that the world, that evil is nothing, is by no means simplicity itself. Nevertheless, this doctrine comes very nearly being the truth. However, it is not our purpose to analyze the nature of evil in this connection. That is the subject so large that separate attention would be required. Our object here is to make clear what we wish to bring out in connection with the most important law, viz., that when we give conscious recognition to the existence of an evil, we tend to increase its power and multiply its effects. And in dealing with this law, it will be necessary to define briefly what evil actually is, or rather what the new psychology has found it to be. To say that evil is the absence of the good is not sufficiently explicit, while to say that evil is undeveloped good is simply to play upon words. The process of development is continuous. Therefore, the fully developed of today is undeveloped in comparison with the possibilities of tomorrow, so that according to the idea that good of today would be evil in the light of tomorrow, which is by no means a scientific idea. The truth in this connection is that when we employ the undeveloped, just as if it were developed, we produce what is called evil, and it is this fact that has given rise to the belief that evil is undeveloped good. When we look closely at those things that are called evil, we find that in every case force has been employed contrary to the natural laws involved. It will therefore be correct to say that evil is misdirected good, or that it is improper use of a power that is in itself good. In fact, all powers, forces, and elements are good in themselves because all that is really is good. Everything is created for a good purpose and is actually good. But it is possible to employ it for the purpose that it is not in accord with those laws under which we live at the present moment, and here is where evil may rise. God is good, and we live in God's world. We live in a perfect world, a beautiful world. Evil is only misdirected power of good. Every act is good, proper, and useful when performed in its own sphere of action. But when performed outside of its own sphere, it is not good. It produces conditions that we call evil. This being true, the fact that every act has its own sphere of action is one of the greatest facts in the universe. We can do only such things at such times that harmonize with the laws that obtain at the time and under the circumstance. It is absolutely necessary to the persistence of the universe that such laws be absolute, because if they were not, the universe would be a chaos. To simplify the subject, we may state that evil is a condition produced by an act that is performed outside of its natural sphere, and that the power and effects of that condition depend upon how much life the mind throws into that particular act. Please excuse the background noise. It is a well-known fact that the mind gives its life to those actions and conditions upon which consciousness is directed, and consciousness is always directed where reality is supposed to exist. Therefore, when we give conscious recognition to the existence of an evil, we give more life and more power to those conditions that we call evil, and in consequence make them much worse than they are. This is very simple, because the more attention you give to anything, the more life and power you add to that particular thing, be it good or evil. Accordingly, it is unwise to give attention or recognition to evil under any circumstance. However, the question is, how can we prevent giving conscious attention to the evil and the wrong? When evil seems to be very real, how can we avoid giving conscious recognition to its existence? The answer is that we must get a better understanding of the real nature of evil and the real nature of good, because when this understanding is gained, we can train the mind to act correctly in this connection. When we know that evil is not a thing, not a principle, not a reality, but simply a certain temporary and mistaken use of reality, and when we know that the use of that reality has its origin in our own minds, our attention will at once be transferred from the unpleasant conditions surrounding the evil and be directed instead upon our own inner mental domain. Thus, consciousness will be withdrawn from the condition called evil and will become concerned with the change of mental action. Accordingly, the power of the evil will at once be diminished. Actual experience in life has demonstrated the fact a number of times that pain or even a severe disease will disappear instantaneously when consciousness is fully and completely taken into another sphere or thought of action. This proves that an evil condition can live only so long as we give it life. Consciousness is life, and all things in life are made out of consciousness, energy. And we give it life only so long as we consciously admit or recognize its existence. When an evil condition is felt, attention should at once be directed upon the opposite good that exists in the inner world of perfection. This action of the mind will take consciousness away from the unpleasant conditions and will cause all the faculties of the mind to work in realizing the absolutely good. When we proceed to trace all perverted actions to its inner mental source, consciousness will follow, leaving evil behind and coming to give its life to the change of the said source. That proves itself simply to the misunderstanding of things. Then if the desire of the heart is to change the source of that action, or in other words, to gain a correct understanding of things, the new and the ideal image of the good will appear in the mind, and accordingly the laws previously presented, a change for the better will follow at once. If you're just barely watching this video, and if you haven't been with us this whole time, I encourage you to watch the videos before this, because he's basically talking about how your thoughts produce your actions, and your actions are basically what produce your environment. So if you want to change your environment, you have to change your actions, and to change your actions, you have to change the way you think. To illustrate, we will take a depressed condition of mind for the body and proceed to remove it by this method. First, we will picture clearly upon the mind the perfect image of harmony, so that we can almost see harmony with the mind. Second, we will prove to ourselves through reason that this depressed condition is not a thing, but the temporary result of valuable power misdirected. And since this power is misdirected by our own mind must contain the origin of that misdirection. Then we will turn attention upon our own inner mentality with a view of removing the source of perversion, establishing a state of harmony, and while thus directing attention upon the inner mentality, we will hold the mind in such an attitude that it is moving directly upon the image of perfect harmony. The result will be that consciousness will become so absorbed in creating the new state of harmony that it will withdraw completely from the outer evil conditions. This outer condition will in consequence disappear as it is deprived of life, while the new state of harmony will be firmly established by receiving all the attention and all the life. In other words, when consciousness leaves the conditions of evil, evil has nothing further to live on, and will disappear, and as consciousness enters the condition of harmony and good in the within, those conditions will receive all the life that consciousness has to give, and will accordingly grow and develop until they become sufficiently strong to take possession of the entire human system. This is a simple process and works perfectly, and that can be employed successfully in removing any undesirable condition from the mind or body. However, before we begin, we must picture clearly upon the mind the image of the perfect state that we seek to realize and develop. and proceed as above in the elimination of the wrong through the creation of the right. A perfect understanding of the law under consideration will aid remarkably in turning our attention as required, because there is nothing that can change the mind so readily as the reasoning process involved in a clear understanding of the subject at hand. To realize fully that life and power always go wherever consciousness goes, it is extremely important, and also that consciousness can be directed anywhere by becoming thoroughly interested wherever we wish to go. You can be what you will to be. Consciousness will create wherever you put your consciousness to be. In applying these methods, people who feel deeply always have the best results, because deep feelings tend to produce deep interest in those conditions into which we wish to direct attention. Closely connected with this process, we find a most important metaphysical law that may be stated as follows. All things work together for good to him who desires only the good, and as it is possible for anyone to desire the good and the good only, we realize that it is possible for anyone to cause all things to work together for good in his life. This law proves that the way to better things is not nearly as difficult as we have supposed it to be, and also that the straight and narrow path is by no means a path that a few alone can enter. The doctrine of the straight and narrow path has been misinterpreted, and it does not refer to something that is so extremely difficult to pass through, nor is it a path that leads directly away from everything that is pleasant in life. Neither is it so narrow that we can pass through it only when we have given up everything else in life. The belief that everything in life must be left out if we wish to take this path is not only absurd, but it is the very opposite of the real truth. The path that leads into life, the full life, the complete life, the beautiful life, is straight because it is established upon law. When you take this path, you begin to use all the laws of life properly, and will therefore gain all the good things that life has the power to give. Here we must remember that a law is not a cruel something, the function of which is simply to punish. A law is a path that leads to greater and better things. Therefore, to follow a law is to move directly towards the better and the greater. When we live according to a law, we are constantly receiving the greater riches, the life. I'm sorry. I had a really long day and it's pretty late right now. I just had to make sure I recorded this for you guys and girls. Okay, where was I? When we live according to a law, we are constantly receiving the greater riches that lie in that path. And when we live according to all the laws of life, we receive everything good that life can give. However, when we violate law, we go outside of the path, where there is nothing to be gained and nothing to live for. In fact, we step out of everything that pertains to life and thus enter chaos, the result of which is pain, loss, and retrogression. Retrogression meaning moving backwards and not forward. It is the law that gives us punishment when we go astray. When we go astray, we deprive ourselves of the good things of life by going away from the path where those good things are to be found. And when we are deprived of the good is absent, and the absence of good means evil, the entering into of which means punishment. The path that leads into life is narrow because it gives room only for your own individuality, and only for the true self. You cannot be a double self, one part good and the other not, when you enter this path. There is only room for the true self. Neither can you lean on someone else. There is not room for anyone upon which to lean, as the path is for yourself alone. On this path you must live your own life and give all others freedom to live their own lives. Life is given us to be lived, and to live life we must live to ourselves according to our own light and our own individual needs. The path to life is the path to greater things. In other words, that is, the advancing path. Excuse me. Okay. The advancing path, and is therefore not a dismal, disagreeable, or difficult path. On the contrary, it is the very opposite, and is found by seeking the good and the good only. So long as we have only the good in mind, we will be on this path. We will live according to the laws of life and will receive only good things, because the laws of life can give only the good things. But when we begin to desire what is not good, we are at once drawn out of this path. Thus we will be deprived of the essentials of life, and instead we will enter into emptiness, weakness, perversion, confusion, and all other kinds of disaster. When all our desires are directed upon the attainment of the highest good, our creative powers will proceed to create and rebuild everything within us and about us, thus causing all things to become better. Everything in life will improve. We will be in more perfect harmony with our surroundings, and will attract more agreeable persons, circumstances, and events. We will become creators of the good. Everything that we do will produce good, and everything that we attempt will result in good. I'm sorry again. I hope I'm not making you yawn. I hope I'm not making you tired, because this is really great stuff that we are going over, and we're covering it right now. We're not tired. We're not tired. Okay, where was I? Everything that we do will produce good, and everything that we attempt will result in good. We will meet all persons and environments on the better side, and will in consequence receive the best things that each person and environments have the power to give. Every change that we make will be an open door to greater good, because we are moving towards the good, and the good only as every change is being made. Here it is very important to remember that when we desire only the good, we are always moving towards greater good, and must without fail realize the greater good in the near future. If we pass through a few unpleasant experiences while we are waiting, we must not pay attention to such seeming inconsistencies. The fact that all will be well when we reach the goal in view should so fully occupy our minds that we will not be disturbed by any defect that may be found in the way over which we must for the present pass. To desire the good, however, does not mean to desire mere self-satisfaction. It is the universal good that must be held in mind, the greatest good for everybody. And this must not only be held in mind, but deeply desired with the whole heart and soul. The proper course is to desire only the highest good, and then turn all the life and power we possess into that desire. In fact, we should make that desire far stronger than all other desires, and we should live in it constantly. As you proceed in this manner, all the laws of the mind will work with you in promoting the realization of the good that you have in view, and will gradually eliminate the results of past mistakes. Should the personal self tend to make new mistakes or take missteps, thereby leading your plans out of the true path, something will occur to prevent you from doing this before it is too late. The laws of your being will cause something to come in your way, and thus turn your life in another direction. That is, in a new direction where the highest good you have in view may be finally realized. When you have set your heart and soul upon the attainment of the good and the good only, the predominating powers of your being will work only for the good, and the lesser powers will, one after the other, be taken into the same positive current, so that before long all things in your life will work together for good. We may not understand at first how these powers operate, but we shall soon find that the results we had in view are being realized more and more. And as this realization is gained, we shall come positively to the conclusion that all things do work together for good when we desire the good and the good alone. That will be the end of chapter 10. If you made it to the end of this video, I want to share you. And if you made it this far with me, I want to salute you, because, like I said, you are taking the initiative to bring better things into your life and to move forward in your life, because we all deserve the best out of life. God didn't put us on this earth for us to not live to the fullest. We're here to enjoy what He has created for us, and He has given us all the powers that He has, that is bestowed within us, that has given us the power to create the life that we want. Because just as God rules over the universe, He has given us the power to rule in our lives. So, that being said, that is the end of chapter 10. Tomorrow I will read you chapter 11, and that is with what measure ye meet. Yeah, that's a pretty cool saying, huh? Alright then, you guys, I'll see you on the other side of the galaxy, and